everybody, Karen here. I'm talking about chapter 1. This is your video lecture. There were a few things I wanted you to pay attention to in particular, although I also want you to find out what interests you about this chapter. It's really important during your college education to notice what you notice, to see what kind of ideas you're interested in, you're attracted to, what jumps out at you. So, this chapter is about the first reading. So you're about to, after we read this chapter on how to do the first reading, to do your first reading of The Glass Menagerie. But let's read this first to make sure that you have the right mindset for approaching it. There's a heading that says play analysis leads to doing, and I think I talked a little bit in a previous video about recipes and how they are written to be done, but we need certain vocabulary, certain tools in order to turn a bunch of words on a page into a really awesome dish you can eat. This is the same thing. So when we're reading a play, we are getting an impression of it. It has an emotional component, an intellectual component. It has a story, but we're also reading it as something to do, to make happen. So that's really important. So you want to read a play in one sitting, and this could be like 90 minutes to a few hours depending on how fast a reader you are, which has nothing to do with how smart you are. So you're going to be taking notes along with your reading of this. So this is going to be like a half-day endeavor. So set aside some time when you're fresh and when you have a quiet place in order to do this first reading. Part of analyzing a play, this is on page 12, is imagining an audience's first experience of it in the theater. So your first experience reading it, especially as you learn to read plays better, is really important if you are a theater maker. So pay attention to that first impression. Notice what you notice, right? Those impulses, those impressions are really important. You may have less of an impression of this play now than when you hopefully reread it shortly, because you'll know less about how to read it, but still, give yourself time and space. Top of page 13, they note that when you come across things that are unfamiliar with you in the play, for you in the play, either write these things down on a little note card, on a document, or make a note in the margins if you're using a hard copy. It's really important as theater artists to not blind your eyes to anything you don't understand. What artists do is notice what it is we don't understand and lean toward that and research it to make sure that when we make art, everything we do is intentional. So notice anything that you don't understand, which is going to be a lot because this is an older play. It's set in the 30s, was written in the 40s, so that's like 85 years ago. You're a young person living in 2025, so a lot of these references are things you're not going to understand. So note those. When you get to the stage directions, and this includes all of that stuff before the dialogue in the play actually begins, any preface, anything the playwright has written, the cast of characters, all of that stuff, read it. Ultimately, if you were to participate in staging a production of this, that stuff may or may not be helpful, but you want to recognize all of the information that you have. Sometimes people skip right to when the dialogue starts. Don't do that. Read all the stuff before the dialogue starts. Okay. They talk about Joe Turner's Come and Gone, which is an awesome play by August Wilson, one of our most important American playwrights. Unfortunately, we don't have the time to read any of his stuff here in this class, but there are a couple of fantastic films that have been made of his work. Fences has two of our best living American actors in it. That is one of August Wilson's plays, so I hope when the course is over, you might get that script, do this evaluation, and then watch the film of it. And if you ever have a chance to see any of August Wilson's plays, I recommend it. Okay, so they're talking about August Wilson's stage directions, and on page 15, they point out that it's an important question to ask. If the playwright has provided information through the stage directions, why? What purpose does that solve? You don't have to answer that question. You have to ask that question. So you can put part of your brain, you can sort of open the door to wondering that. Okay, great. And a good motto for first readings, this is at the bottom of 15, is if the script describes it, take time to visualize it. Part of what you're going to do is you're going to sketch out a set as described in this script. And if you are studying design of any type, this is going to be a starting place. You may realize that if you designed a set for Glass Menagerie, it's going to be configured pretty differently from what they describe in the script. But nonetheless, to help us picture what the play should look like, note all of those descriptions and write them down. Okay, then they talk about Hamlet. That's a pretty good play. And then on 18, they talk about how dialogue is doing, and I love that. Because again, we're theater artists, we work in verbs, not in adjectives, right? We look at what a play does, what characters want, what they're trying to do, to get. Those are verbs. Lots of people who are theater outsiders think that theater or film, that it's adjectives. Someone is sad or someone is jealous and things like that. But if they're sad, maybe what they're trying to do is hold it together. If they're jealous, what the theater artists are probably trying to do is get revenge, right? So the dialogue is to help the characters get something. You do this too, right? You all were very recently really young people, kids, and you had different tactics with your language to try to get things that you needed or wanted from your parents, right? My daughter Rachel, when she was little, if she wanted ice cream, she would use her language to get that ice cream. And she might say, Mama, please take me out for ice cream. And then maybe I would say no. And then she would try a different way, right? She would change her tactic with her language in order to get what she wanted because she ran into an obstacle, which was me saying no. So then she might use her language to bargain. And she might say, Mama, if you take me out for ice cream, I will clean my room. Right? And then the way she was using language to get what she wanted changed, and then so on and so forth. So language in a play is all about what the character is trying to do or to get. Keep that in mind. That's what the lines are for, even if it's narration, if it's a good play. Okay, great. And then I had mentioned in our previous video that it's really important to figure out the difference between what you like and dislike and what is well done and poorly done, okay? So put any taste aside and keep an open mind about taste. Like in terms of genre, I'm not really sportsy, so I'm not crazy about sports movies, but if I watch one that is really well done, I can appreciate that it's really well done, even though it's not a topic I'm particularly interested in. So they talk about that a little bit on the bottom of 19. Okay, great. And then we're nearly done with this part. Bottom of 20, they talk about what to do for your first reading of Glass Menagerie. So you're going to be answering some questions, so read all the questions before you read the play. If I were you, I would keep that open as a separate page, or I might print it out to have it as a reference, and I would keep reading those questions when I'm done with sections of this script, with scenes or with acts, or just when I need to get up and get a snack or something like that. All right? So keep that in mind and email me with any questions.